If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I tend to like companies that are pretty boring. I've briefly talked about WD-40 and their stock performance. I did a whole video on Tupperware, and I've even said in the past that one of my favorite stock positions that I've owned is Ecolab. Well, today I'm going to continue that trend and talk about a company that you might have not heard about before, but I guarantee have at least seen or used their products. Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me today. My name's Matt, and before we get started here, I just need to say, not advice, don't take it as advice. If you need advice, speak to a financial advisor, but this is just for your entertainment purposes only. Also, remember, if you like this video, it's a 5-cent donation for charity, and subscribing is a 10-cent donation for charity as well. And I also just want to apologize in advance here if I sound a little off or for this being a quick video. I am not feeling good at all, but I just did not feel comfortable letting a week go by without making a video, so I'm going to power through it today and hopefully still be able to deliver some valuable information. Also, special thank you to Chillin' Tamarin and Daniel Timmerman for your stock suggestions that you gave me on my last week's video. I definitely want to look into them, but as I said, I just haven't been feeling great, so I haven't been able to work up the energy to really spend a lot of time researching companies. Now, the company that we're going to talk about today is Sealed Air Corporation. Again, a name you might have not heard of, but I bet you've heard of bubble wrap before. Well, Sealed Air Corporation is actually the inventor, founder of bubble wrap. Little fun fact about bubble wrap and how this all started is I was watching some video on YouTube the other day of an artist who makes paintings with bubble wrap, and he mentioned that bubble wrap was originally designed to be wallpaper in houses. Clearly, this idea did not take on well, as many people did not want bubble wrap as their wallpaper, so they had to find some other uses of this product. And there's a few failures along the way, but ultimately, as we all know now, they figured that bubble wrap worked really well for packaging. I also found out that they are located in Charlotte, or their headquarters is in Charlotte, and they're actually only about 5 minutes from where I used to work at Vanguard. And I had no idea that this company even existed that long ago, so I thought that was pretty cool as well. Anyway, I started going down this long rabbit hole of bubble wrap when I found out that it was used for wallpaper, and really just started looking into different things. And I found out that bubble wrap used to be patented. It's no longer patented, but their company says that the process for making bubble wrap is a trade secret. So it's not something that I guess a lot of other companies can easily start producing. And I could spend a long time talking about all their different other products and brands, but that would take a long time, and I'm sorry, I just don't really have much energy to do that today. But I also wanted to mention maybe another brand you might have heard of that they own now is Cryovac. If you haven't heard of Cryovac, you've definitely seen them before as well, because they are what does a lot of food packaging for things like cheese, or when you buy a brisket and they come in those big packages, or even some ready-made meals that you'll see at places like Publix. With all that said though, I do just want to go ahead and move on to the numbers here. Now for the numbers, I am going to do a comparison. The comparison is to, I believe it's called Sonico, something along those lines. And admittedly, I'm not sure if this is the best comparison. Again, I couldn't really find a direct comparison because each of them do something a little bit different, but nonetheless, they are still in that packaging area, so it's the best example I could find as a comparison in just kind of a short time frame, or with as much energy as I was willing to put into it. So taking a look at these numbers here, we can actually see that Sealed Air, their ticker symbol is SEE, has a really favorable PE ratio. Coming in at 17.82 is actually something good for me to see. As we could see when we look at Sonico, they have a PE ratio that I would view as personally overvalued, being at 33.94. So seeing that 17.82 is fairly refreshing. That said though, when we come to EV to sales, both of these companies have a pretty good number. I really like to see the EV to sales ratio being in that 1 to 3 range. But with here, we have 2.4 and 1.56. Now, looking at both of these valuation metrics, I can say that I still do prefer Sealed Air's valuation than Sonico, because the PE ratio is significantly lower with Sealed Air than we see for Sonico. And despite Sealed Air still having a slightly higher EV to sales, it's still not something that I view as overvalued. So when I look at these two metrics alone, again, I do tend to favor Sealed Air in this situation. The beta was a little bit of a surprise to me though. 1.27 is a lot higher of a beta for this kind of company than I thought. I thought that this would be more in line with Sonico's at 0.82, but nonetheless, it's not over 2, it's not over 3, so it's not a very volatile stock, but again, I was surprised to see that this is a little bit more volatile than what the market is. And the dividends here. Again, this is something a little strange for me. I'll just cover both of these at once. So we have Sealed Air at 1.15% for their yield and a payout ratio of 18.26%. Again, that is a very low payout ratio ratio. But as somebody who's not really a dividend investor, more looking at this company as a defensive position, I'm okay with the lower payout ratio. It's also worth noting, though, that Sonico is a dividend aristocrat. I believe they've been paying out a dividend for 38 consecutive years or quarters or something along those lines. So if you're a dividend investor, you might be more interested in Sonico as an investment. But again, for me, it's just an added bonus. I'm really, as I just mentioned, looking at this as more of a defensive position. And both have a pretty solid current ratio, 1.33 to 1.27, so pretty in line with there and pretty consistent. Again, both those being over 1 is something I'm okay with. And I can't imagine that these companies are doing much more expanding anymore. I think that they're probably pretty settled in their ways. If anything, they might just be trying to take over new customers, get a bigger product reach or something along those lines. But I don't see this kind of company or really this kind of sector doing much more expansion like what we see in the tech sector or even the EV space. Now I just want to kind of go over what I really like about this company and what concerns I have about this when it comes to an investment. So I'll start off by addressing the first weakness that I see here. And I don't know if it's really a weakness or not, but it does have to do with their dependency on plastic. Now, they do have other products that are recyclable or biodegradable, decompostable, if that's a word. Is that the same thing as biodegradable? Not my area of expertise. But despite things like bubble wrap being recyclable, I still see that being as a problem because they actually do suggest you using or trying to reuse the bubble wrap before you take it to a recycling center. I think it's like plastic bags where they aren't necessarily recyclable in the same sense as like an aluminum can. They must go through like some different process. Not something I really know a lot about. As companies are starting to face more and more pressure with being a green company, obviously plastic is going to be one of those problems that comes up. So I do see this being something that they'll probably have to put a lot of emphasis towards, maybe spend some money on towards trying to create more, again, biodegradable bubble wrap or some other solution / alternative towards plastic bubble wrap. The other thing too is when you look at this stock's performance over the past 5 years, it really hasn't moved much. Now, traditionally, I've stayed away from companies that don't move much. That's why I haven't really invested in the auto industry in previous years because they just don't really offer that kind of growth that I'm looking for. But the reason why that doesn't really concern me here is because, as I mentioned, this is going to be more of a defensive position inside of the portfolio. So I'm not as concerned with the lack of growth that it has had, but it is something, if you are looking for growth, that you'll definitely want to make sure you take into consideration. But aside from that, there are a few reasons why I really like this company as an investment. And the first being is that it is a really boring company. And by their nature, boring companies usually don't come with that much volatility. Now, their beta tells a slightly different story, but again, it's nothing significant where it has me worried about the volatility of this investment. Also, seeing that 90% or more of their shares are owned by institutions gives me a little bit more confidence because when a lot of shares are owned by institutions like Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, or other company BlackRock to put into their ETFs, the positions aren't sold as often or they don't have as much trading volume to them, again, which just gives me a little bit more confidence knowing that the stock isn't going to go haywire one day. If we also look at the discounted cash flow analysis that Simply Wall Street gives to us, the stock is pretty undervalued. Now again, take that with a grain of salt because I don't really see, aside from things like share buybacks, which would be tough with 90% of them being owned by institutions, this going up that high in price, but it is still reassuring to know that I could buy an investment that is still undervalued. And then from there, what I would do is just focus on what can this company actually do to really bring up their share price. The last thing that I really like about this company is, no, they're not a digital company. They're not a tech company. But despite whatever else is going on in the world and what industries are growing, this is the kind of company that is still going to service a need, and that's going to be for packaging. Regardless what happens, even with people doing more and more online shopping, I think that just further emphasizes the importance of companies like Sealed Air because they do make those shipping packaging. So I like that as an investment, again, especially in today's day and age where a lot of things just feel unpredictable, because it gives me the confidence knowing that regardless what happens, things are still going to need to be packaged. That's going to be food, expensive items, t-shirts even. So they have a lot of solutions for things that I just don't really see going away anytime soon unless packaging were just to be entirely eliminated, which who knows if that's really going to happen. With all that said, I am going to add this to the portfolio. Again, I didn't really have the ability to do a full deep dive into this company like I wanted to, but I'm still pretty confident with what I've seen so far. But if this is the stock you're looking at, as always, just make sure you do your own further research because, again, I didn't really have the energy to put in a lot of time into this company. All right, so taking a look here, the portfolio is getting slaughtered, but it's actually doing better now that the market's opened. I did actually buy this morning. So I just put in the order this morning, and we've already got $108 profit. So that's pretty cool to see. As you can see, I bought 100 shares, and it was around $55 even. That's kind of cool. That doesn't really happen that often. It's got us, again, that $108 gain so far, which is crazy considering my time filming this. We're only 19 minutes into market open, so that's really cool. Taking a look at the rest of the portfolio, basically everything's getting slashed right now. Like I said, they are kind of on their way back up, but they're still pretty deep in the red where it has me kind of nervous. But aside from that, I'll just talk about the other winner we have in here, which is still Blackstone. That blows my mind. I will take that $520 gain, considering when we look at companies like Apple, Microsoft, Jumia, Square, all losing us a significant amount of money. So I think a lot of people's portfolios are probably looking pretty similar to mine right now, but I think that this new investment in Sealed Air, again, might be another anchor to this portfolio, similarly to what we have with VOO. So that's my review of Sealed Air. As always, please leave some suggestions of companies that you want me to take a look at in the comment section down below. I'll gladly take a look into them once I'm back to feeling 100%. I'm pretty sure it's allergies. Let me know in the comments below if your allergies are also just absolutely terrible this week, because mine are rough. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, if you like this video, it's a 5-cent donation for charity. If you subscribe, it's a 10-cent donation for charity. I think I mess up this outro so many times, so I'll just end it here. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me, and I really appreciate that. But I'll let you go ahead, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.